أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الذي أذهب الله عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. Assalamu alaikum jamian wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to our session and our journey into ourselves and in Surah Fatiha. So I don't know how we will be proceeding beyond Surah Fatiha, how we will be taking this session forward. I keep thinking about it, but then I let Allah decide. I think Allah will help and inspire how to take that forward. So today I'm really inspired to talk about again Iyaka na'budu wa Iyaka nasta'in ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqeem. So we've been talking about seeking Allah's help and then asking Allah to keep us on the right path. And this week, the ayat of the Quran that has really been on my mind is the ayat where Allah is telling the Holy Prophet that when my servant asks about me, then tell him that I am near, and when the caller calls upon me, then I respond. So it's the ayat which is very commonly quoted. It's a very popular ayat. Ud'uni astajib lakum, call upon me and I will respond. That ayat. And the reason for that is that because we're making this dua in Surah Fatiha and we're telling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you only I worship and only you do I seek help from. You are my only succor, you're my only help. And the ayat that I just read out to you, the translation, Ud'uni astajib lakum, the reason it connects so well is because it's also asking about the dua. It's also asking Allah's help. But what is really beautiful in this is something that I am very excited to share with you. It came to me as an insight, is that we are so reluctant so many times to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly, because we've been conditioned and we've been told this analogy that, just the way messages from God came through imams and through the prophets, and how they were the conduits, they were the mediums through which we received message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The same way we always need a medium to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the beauty of this ayat is that, number one, in Surah Fatiha, we're talking directly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we've been asked to have this conversation with Allah so many times in the day. So we need to take note of that we have been told to recite this surah as it is, and we are being encouraged to get into a direct conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now over here in Surah Fatiha, the conversation is almost in a way one-sided, where we're the ones talking, and we finish off by making this dua with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you only do I worship and you only do I seek help from. And then we're saying, keep me on the right path, and then so on. And after that, we will talk about the two groups of people. But in Ud'uni astajib lakum, I'm really fascinated that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using this really powerful ayat where he's talking about the dynamics of the connection we need to build with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's as if Allah knew that we will be feeling unworthy. We will be feeling this lack within us. We will be feeling not good enough to have a direct conversation with him. and we will be like, I'm not worthy of the the majestic God. I'm not worthy of the the mighty God. Who am I? I'm nobody, you know. And then we go to the Holy Prophet and we say, could you, on my behalf, talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for me? And the Holy Prophet at this point is being guided to tell us that when my servant asks you about me, tell the caller, tell the one who's calling upon me that when they call upon me, I respond. So it's as if the dynamics of our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are being clarified over here. That even when you go to the Holy Prophet to intercede on your behalf, Allah's message, Allah's preferred way of communication is that Holy Prophet redirects us directly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That when my caller comes to you, tell my caller to talk to me directly and I will respond. Don't think that my response will come to you through an intermediary always. I want a direct connection with you. And the scholars, they point out that this ayat, I'm just going to look it up. I would like to put it on the screen while I'm talking. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that the scholars say that so many of the times Allah has referred to himself. I'm just going to search the ayat. I think it's yes, I found it. Just gonna yeah, I'm so sorry about this today. Sorry. Thank you. Okay, so if over here, if we see, we have this verse of the Quran which says, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي. Okay, and then and when ask you my about saying, indeed I am near. So, and when ask you my servant. So we see the first my, which is Allah referring to himself, my servant, about, and indeed I, this is the third, am near. I respond, this is the fourth, to the invocation of the supplicant when he calls me. This is the fifth. So let them respond to me. Sixth, and let them belong believe it. So that may be. Scholars say that it is a powerful ayat because Allah has referred to himself 7 times in this verse. And the beauty over Allah is when asks you, my servant, me. When they come to you and they say, Holy Prophet, near. I'm close to them. I'm not far. Why are you putting this intermediary in the middle? I'm not far. I'm close to you. And it's not just that the message is going to reach me and then you have to receive the answer through somebody else. I respond to you calling me when the Lord calls upon me. So don't think that you're gonna call me and I'm not gonna listen. And don't think that I'm going to be somehow using these mediums in the middle, and I won't respond to you, and you will and you wouldn't even know that you were talking to me. So then Allah is saying, so let them call upon me and let them believe me that alright, and they come to me, talk to me. um it's not a big deal. I'm here, I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to listen to you, I'm going to respond to you. Have some faith, I will guide you, I will set you on the right guidance. And so many solely with the idea of talking to Allah and telling him, Allah, I want candy. And then Allah replying and saying, by giving me a candy, by giving me those things that I want. This is how we grow up as children. Like, ask Allah, Allah will give you, ask Allah, Allah will give you. But the most profound feeling that I had, the realization was that he's actually talking about us having a conversation with him directly about our straight path. He will set us right, which is the Sirat, which is the right path that we're looking for. And so the key in this is that we're praying to Allah for the right path, and we go to the Holy Prophet and he shows us the way to who? What is the Holy Prophet here to show us? The Holy Prophet himself is not the one who will do the work for us. He is not going to do my homework for me. He's not going to take my exam for me, which is what we somehow end up believing. The Holy Prophet is actually showing us how to take this test and how to sit this exam and how to go through this life. And through the Holy Prophet's example, Allah is saying, you know what? Just like my Habib, just like my friend, just like my beloved Muhammad talks to me, I'm telling Muhammad, teach them, teach your ummah the way you talk to me, the way I respond to you. What you are doing for the ummah is that you are setting an example of how to build this relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How is it that the rest of the people whom you have come to guide are going to have this communication with me? So the beauty here is that we are learning from the Holy Prophet the art of communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving these key points of Sirat al-Mustaqeem. How will you see the right path? I will show you the right path. Get into a direct conversation with me. So this ayat is a beautiful message for us to have faith. Allah is saying, I am near, and have faith. Believe I am going to show things that Allah is touching upon human psyche here. When we cannot see Allah, we go to the Prophet because he's the tangible representative. When we go to the Holy Prophet, Allah is telling the Prophet, come on, tell my people, tell these people that when you call me, I respond to you and I'm near you. And believe in this, have faith, I am going to respond, and then I'm going to show you the path. And this is what we were talking about in our last class, how making conversation directly with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens the doors to a communication where guidance comes to us. And this ayat for me became an evidence, a manifestation of that lesson in this week. And that's why we see how Allah is saying, I'm closer to you than your jugular vein. I can even notice the movement of your eyes, the slight movement of your eyes. And so we see how beautifully Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing us through this ayat that He understands our fears. He understands that we feel far from Allah. And sometimes, most of the time, we were taught to look up in the sky and think of God far away in the heavens. And we need someone in the middle to take us to Him, to connect us to Him. And so Allah is saying, look, I'm near. I'm closer to you than your jugular vein. And it's not like you want something I'm going to give, that's fine. But over here, the response is actually voice in our hearts. And this voice in our hearts has to be tapped into, because that becomes the fruit of our work. You see, scholars, they explain to us the relationship between us and Allah in the form of a communication between lover and the beloved. And the way they explain is that, Majnoon comes from the word Junoon, which is madness. Somebody who's gone insane, somebody who's lost their senses. If the lover has fallen in love with the beloved to the extent where now they've lost their sanity, now they are in a state of Junoon. And the Layla, for example, if Majnoon is in love with Layla, or Qais is in love with Layla, which is how they put the story, and Layla says that, call upon me, I am near you, and I will respond. Earlier on, this is how I've been thinking, and I'm sure a lot of you have experienced it far better than me. But the way I would see it is that, Allah, I want this, and please give this to me. And then Allah will respond by giving that thing to me. So Majnoon and Layla are there, and Layla is saying, ask me for whatever you want. And Majnoon goes there, and Majnoon would say, oh, I want a degree, or I want a child, or I want this or that. But isn't a lover actually waiting only to be in the presence of Layla? Isn't the lover just waiting to talk to Layla? And when two people are in love, the most amazing thing is when your beloved responds to you, when the message comes back, when you say salam and you get alaikum salam, when you look at them and they look at you, when you talk and they respond to you and you feel seen, like I was seen by this person who's like, oh, so big for me. And so when we come in that kind of communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah is saying, I'm near, right? I'm near, I'm not far. You're not lost in the crowd for me, number one. Number two, talk to me directly. Why are you sending me messages through somebody else? Then Allah is saying, have faith in me. I will respond. I will respond. I will guide you. I will talk to you. It's almost sounding like Allah has that keenness to talk to us. Allah Himself is saying, you know what? I want to talk to you. Why are you not talking to me directly? And that was beautiful. The way Allah is so poetic and, so beautiful in the way He talks to us. It's not about things. It's not about anything else. It's about me wanting you. And so the feeling here is that while Allah doesn't need anything, Allah doesn't need anything from us, which was also how we were conditioned, that please Allah and do good deeds, give charity, you make Allah happy, don't be mean to your parents, you make Allah angry, don't be rude, don't do this, don't, you'll get Allah's azab, you will upset him. And we just thought of this grumpy guy who is, always at the edge of his wits, who, like, you'll make him happy or you will make him upset, and you're always walking on eggshells. And Allah is not like that. Allah is like the lover and the beloved relationship. And He's saying, you know what? I don't need anything. I don't want anything. All I want is for you to come and talk to me, because there is a love relationship here. And when the King of the Kings is saying, come and talk to me, he's he's putting you in that limelight where you feel like the prom queen, You're like, oh my God, I'm really sorry about these analogies. I don't mean to humanize God in any way. Nauzubillah. That is not the intention. So please don't go there. I don't intend it there. But it is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to us. It is how He's making us feel so special, that He is telling the Holy Prophet one by one, tell my servant that I am near and come and talk to me, and I will respond. I will talk to you. And a lot of times people are open to this communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but a lot of times there is a lot of doubt. So I want to bring up this doubt of Allah's voice. Allah is promising us in this ayat by mentioning Himself 7 times, so that it makes the ayat really heavy and very emphatic. And as if a promise that I will respond. That means He's talking to us. He's saying the whole world cannot encompass me, but the heart of a believer encompasses me. So the voice comes through the heart. But majority of the time, when I do mention this, a lot of people will say that, but how do I know which voice is Allah's voice? Because there is the waswasa of the shaitan as well. And some people are really open to receiving this communication. So they will easily say, no, I hear Allah's voice. I know it. Allah talks to me. It's very simple. And simpler we are, the simplest of people will know about this voice of God, but more that sometimes ignorance is bliss. But, how do we distinguish this voice? So I was reading a text by the Shadili Sufi system, and they explain it really beautifully. So I'm going to read it out from there. And they have shared this idea of the 3 voices within us. Okay. And these 3 voices that are within us, they have in the book. Okay. So discerning the voices. We all hear voices, but who is speaking? Most people think, I'm just gonna, most people think that the voices that they hear are just their own thoughts flowing through their consciousness. The Sufis recognize a heart that speaks from a place of connection and witnessing of Allah, the voice of our nafs or self, and the voice of darkness or shaitan. As Sufis, we need to know who is speaking in order to respond correctly. Each voice has a discernible quality. The voice of your heart is that the heart that is connected in witnessing Allah sounds like divine revelation. When it speaks, your whole being softens and feels more at ease. This voice only speaks kindly and lovingly, though it may be firm. It's an uplifting, positive voice that rings with truth, and you may ask yourself, where did that come from? The voice of your nafs will feel more whiny, hurt, or needy in nature, as it is coming from the parts of yourself that are not connected and witnessing the truth of Allah. An example of this voice is your inner child that is having a bad day because things are not going your way. It's usually a voice of resistance to what is. It's the voice that draws us towards other than Allah. For example, I want to sleep in. I want ice cream. I want to watch TV. Jimmy is being mean. They don't like me. I'm hurt. I'm sad. These are all examples of the voices of the nafs. They're not connected to the love, but they are still a part of your inner being. The third category is the voice of darkness, or in Arabic, shaitan. This voice is different because it often speaks in the third person and says you, as in, you are a failure. Nobody cares about you. You will never get what you want. This is truly a dark sounding voice, which is why Siddhi calls it the evil whisperer. It sounds like it is coming from slightly outside of you, as if it is whispering in your ear. Usually, it whispers negative commentary about you, or it will try and lead you astray, such as, you have had such a hard day, you deserve a drink, or no one is looking, go ahead and do it. Any voice that commands us or incites us towards doing what we know is wrong is coming from the shaitan. The voice of the shaitan will often use words like never, forever, always, whenever, in a heavy, damning voice. So let's go through these three voices. So the first voice is the voice of God, and the first voice should feel like love, coming from a soft place, coming from a place that is cuddling you, that is bringing you into peace. And that kind of voice feels really, really magical. It feels like a voice that sorts things out for you, that puts things into place, that gives you solutions, that settles you down and brings a sense of goodness. You overall have a good feeling when you experience this voice in your heart. The second voice is about us talking about what's going on and how we're feeling. Oh, I don't like this. I like this. She did this to me. Why do people have to be like this to me? Things like that. And that's the more whiny voice. That is the voice that the inner self is talking to us. And the third one is a very distinguishable, nagging, pulling down, dark voice, which will immediately kind of put you in a dark cloud. And you suddenly feel really, really down. And this is a voice where you're being told, you are not good enough. Who do you think you are? Where do you think you're going doing all this talking or work or whatever? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling shaitan in the Quran that yes, I give you the leave. You can go and sit in the path to me, and you can go and distract people, except those who believe, except my humble servants who have awareness, who have taqwa. You cannot touch them. In Surah Araf, ayah number 201, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about how when an evil voice comes to them, an evil whisper comes to them, immediately they have an insight. The believers who have taqwa, who have this awareness of God consciousness, they come into a place of insight. They realize, they have an awareness, and then they have an insight about it. I'm just going to open the ayat. I apologize, I'm a little all over the place today. Yeah. So, innal lazina taqu idha massahum. Massahum is a beautiful, my voice is breaking. Can everybody else hear me? Nasibani, is my voice okay or is it breaking?
It is breaking on and off. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm just going to switch my internet connection. Just bear with me. Sorry, I was muted. Can you guys hear me now? Okay. All right. So in this ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Allah innal ladina taqu idha massahum. This is Surah Araf 201. Ta'ifum minash shaitan. Indeed, those who fear Allah, when an impulse touches them from Satan. Now, touches them, massahum, touches them, minash shaitan, from Satan. They remember him and at once they have insight. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, indeed, innal ladina, indeed those who fear Allah, indeed who are in taqwa. So I usually don't use the word fear for taqwa. I use God consciousness, and God consciousness is God awareness. And when we keep practicing this awareness that we were talking about, constantly being in a state of conversation with Allah, constantly being aware of His presence, constantly feel like He's with us, watching us, taking care of us, then when an impulse touches them from Satan, then they remember him and at once they have insight. See how this ayat is so connected with the ud'uni astajib lakum. Allah is saying, I am near and I respond. And over here, we're listening that when the voice of Satan touches you, you immediately remember him. So you go into a state of conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah is saying, they remember me, they remember Allah, and at once they have an insight, at once. So when Allah is saying, I respond, 7 times he's referring to himself in that ayat. And then he's saying, immediately I will respond, I will talk, I will give you the guidance, have faith, I'll be listening to you, I'll be talking to you. In this ayat, in Surah Araf, Allah is saying, a whisper from Satan will come. And you will remember me. Immediately, I will show you the light. A lot of scholars, they translate mubsirun uh, as, the basirat, as in insight, as light, that they see the light in that dark moment. So we just analyze the 3 voices, and Satan's voice is the darkest voice. It is the darkest cloud in our thoughts that puts us down, that makes us feel low about life, that gives us a feeling of loss, feeling of giving up, feeling of depression, feeling of things are not working out, you're not good enough, you're not worthy. All of that darkness dissipates the minute you go into this conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah will immediately give you an insight. And I personally was feeling that state right before the session, because when we do this work, sometimes you will come across people who don't agree with you, who can doubt your intentions, who can say things to you that can put you down. And I actually experienced these voices saying, what do you think you're doing? Like, what do you think you can do to people? How much can you change? There's so much bad in the world, there's so much darkness, and how much can you change? And all of those voices were running through my head. And to bring awareness and saying, okay, where is this coming from? I'm trying to do something good, where is this coming from? And the that dilemma of the human situation, the dilemma of the human situation, the issue that we face as human beings, is stuck with our thoughts. We think that is the truth, that is who we are. The reality is my thoughts. That is the truth, that is the fact. For example, yeah, I'm really nothing. Like, what difference can I make? The whole world is full of darkness. So much bad is happening. Who do you think you're doing? Okay, all of these things, they start to sound like a fact to us. This is real. But the minute we go into a conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we say, oh, Allah, I'm feeling down. What's going on? What is this voice? Immediately, Allah will show you a light. Allah will bring that distinction in your heart. And the biggest response from Allah that comes to the heart is the separation of the two, me and my thought, me and my ego. That is the biggest light, the awareness, the consciousness, the help that Allah gives us in that moment. That if we ask Allah, the biggest response that comes from Him is the separation between the ego, the thought, and the me, the I am, the observer of the thought, the awareness behind the awareness. And that is where we feel distracted throughout the day. That is the state of mind or the state of being that overtakes our awareness and connection to Allah throughout the day. So this Iyaka na'budu wa Iyaka nasta'in ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqeem, which is a moment to moment journey, which requires us to constantly talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is being explained to us through these two ayats. Udoni astajib lakum, and the other ayat of Surah Araf, and there must be many more. But these two for me connect so beautifully, where Allah is telling us to have a direct conversation with Him in times of darkness, knowing that there will be a voice of light while there is a voice of darkness. And when we talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, immediately Allah responds by separating these two, by making you aware of the fact you are not your thoughts. The minute we have this separation, the minute we wake up, we realize, wait a second, I'm not my thoughts. When this separation happens and you're able to look at your thoughts from a distance, you get that really beautiful insight into your situation. And the next step, the guidance opens itself to us, which is wisdom, which is where you know exactly what to do, how to do, and what to do. And so that wisdom can be accessed from the Al-Hakim, Allah who is the all-wise, by connecting to Him in this moment through this conversation. So what we do is that the minute we make this conscious choice of talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we make a direct link to Him. You know, when we were kids, there was this cute thing we used to say that if you want phone number to dial to God, what's that phone number? And they would say it's 24434, and that was the number of the rak'ah of the namaz in the day. You know, 2 Fajr, 4 Zohar, 4 Asr, 3 Maghrib, 4 Isha. And it was really cute. But as a kid, it was such a I was so put off when they would say, oh, that number is the number of your namaz, because I wanted a direct line to God. I wanted to talk with Him directly. Like, where is that number? I want to call and talk to Him. Like my 5-year-old son, you know, I talked to him a lot about, you know, breathing and talking to Allah and how Allah listened and how Allah gifts us these things. And now he's just bent upon, I want to see Allah. I'm so sad I can't see Him. When will I see Him? You know, how will He talk to me? You know, and he sometimes just gets bent upon this idea that I just want to see Allah. And I keep telling him, Allah will show Himself to you. And then one time, I was sitting with him and he was insisting, and I felt so helpless. And I was looking up at God and I was saying, Allah, this is not my job. I can't just defend you. You got to take over right now. I can't do this. And immediately this kid, who's hardly 5 at the time, turns around and he says, I think Allah is like the sun. And I think I feel Him in my heart. And I'm like, what? You know? And he said those things, and I was in a shock. And it was so beautiful how he made the analogy of the sun and all of that. It was just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being there, talking to me and him when we made that connection to Him. And it's really remarkable how Allah's presence can be felt like this. You know, He is talking to us. He responds. That's His promise. He responds for sure. So, you know, we have to understand that we are a complex being where there are voices. But as we, you know, become more regular with our stillness, with our meditation work, with our breathing, we we slowly start to find that discernment of the voices. And shall I tell you, the biggest issue for me in discerning this voice of God was that for me, Allah was not the forgiving, the loving, the letting go kind, because I was always surrounded by people who were not so forgiving. I was always surrounded by most of the people who would take very long to be easygoing. It was very difficult for me to imagine a God who would be easygoing, would be kind and light. So not only was I taught by teachers who were not easygoing in their character, which was also a reflection of their connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For me, Allah was a punishing God who is constantly, picking on you and checking you every second where you go wrong. And so if I would get a kind, loving voice in my heart, I wouldn't even see it as God's voice. I wouldn't even realize that that is Allah's voice. And for the longest time, so much guilt, so much shame, so much all of that was the basis of my connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That for me, all of that love conversation was so alien. And that's why now it's so easy for me to see when Allah speaks, because when He speaks, it's so loving, it's so um, reassuring, it's so, like, I've got your back and I love you no matter what. And, all of the worry and all of the stress, it diffuses, it dissolves when Allah talks to us. And when we can discern that beautiful voice of Allah in our heart, because heart is a place of emotion, heart is a place where we love from, and that is where Allah's voice comes. So a lot of us, our hearts are closed, they've hardened, and that is why there's a seal on the heart, because we're not able to receive that love. We don't feel worthy of receiving that love of that easygoing kind God. And while, taqwa for some people would be God awareness of, oh my God, God is watching, don't falter, don't make a sin, you be careful, be a good girl, that fear of God, it becomes taqwa. There's another completely beautiful side of taqwa, which is God awareness, which is saying, I don't need to get into bad stuff. My Allah is with me. I don't feel unsupported, insecure, unloved, unworthy, low self esteem to go into doing drugs or alcohol or looking for bad friends or going into bad company or cheating somebody in business. God's got my back. He's going to take care of my finances. He's going to take care of my risk. He's going to take care of my reputation. My honor is with him. My health is with him. My money is with him. He protects me in every way. I don't have anything to worry about. That's also God consciousness. That's also taqwa. That is also the beautiful presence of God in our life. So our scholars say that Allah says, in a hadith Qudsi, I am in the opinion of my servant. If you keep an opinion of God, which is a God of fear, then that is how He's going to always show up in life and hereafter. And that's the path you will choose. But if you choose the Jamal way, so that was the Jalal way. If you choose the Jamal way, if you choose the beautiful way, the Latif, the soft way of God, the one that comes through love, which a lot of scholars call is the path of Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, because it was the path of love. And scholars recommend that please choose Allah's Jamal, the Jamali way. That's the recommended way, because He Himself constantly guides us to Him being Rahman and Rahim. Then the taqwa becomes a deep rooted inner grounding where you feel so supported, so safe, so protected that now there is no need to go into a wrong direction of doing anything. You don't feel it. And I was reading this book by Deepak Chopra. It's called The Book of Secrets. And in that, he is talking about the mind. And he says something really amazing. He says that the mind can be tamed by letting it go free. And he says that it sounds counterproductive, because if you have a wild animal, he says over here, um, because nobody would say that a wild elephant or a monkey can be tamed by setting it free. They'd say that the freed animal would only run wilder. Yet, this secret is based on actual experience. The mind is wild because we try to confine and control it. At a deeper level lies complete orderliness. Here, thoughts and impulses flow in harmony with what is right and best for each person. This is the nafakhtu fihi min ruhi. Deep down inside, the Spirit of God is constantly guiding us, supporting us, keeping us safe, loving us, and pointing us in the right direction always. And if we allow the flow of life to, to go as it goes, like the rivers and the streams and the plants and the trees, and the way they are being taken care of, and in a natural habitat they grow and flourish and thrive, we too would, thrive and be at peace and in a peaceful mode if we let the mind free, we free the mind. So freeing the mind means to be aware that I don't have to listen to everything that is in my mind. Freeing the mind means to let it go. Don't be attached to your mind. Let it flow freely. Rumi says in his poetry on Guest House, he says, let your guests come and welcome them and then let them go. If you read the Guest House, it's really beautiful. And so the idea is that when we let our mind free, when do we let our mind free? Okay, in what environment would we feel like we can let our toddler who's gone crazy wild be free? What would that environment be like? Just imagine there's a toddler who's 3, 4, 5 years old. He's going wild. Where would you let your child be free? You would let your child be free in an environment which feels safe, an environment which is protected, an environment which is supportive of the child. This dunya, which Allah says, I created for you, if we think it's a bad word, if we think it's there to get you, if we think it's a place you cannot trust, you think that the universe doesn't support you, everything goes against you, you have to be careful of mean people, you have to be careful of cheaters, you have to be careful of people who are frauds, then this world cannot feel like a safe place for you where you can let your mind be free. But if you feel that this world created by Allah for me is serving me, supporting me, protecting me, helping me, and if that is the opinion of the world we're going to keep, then the mind can finally be free. You don't have to be in a state of stress all the time. You don't have to be feeling worried all the time. Where will my next meal come from? How will I pay my bills? All of that. Then you enter a state of reliance and trust, which is husnizan billah, having a good opinion of God. If if everything and everyone is, nothing is bereft of God, if Allah is all there is and He is the only life force, then everything is supporting me because it's all Allah. And if I have a good opinion of Allah, then I'm going to have a good opinion of His people, of this world. And having this faith that nothing can ever go against me will let your mind feel this trust where you can let your mind be free and be easy. And that is how we can come to a place of knowing that when we talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we are in a situation of darkness and we have that ever-present taqwa of God, then He's got our back. And when the mind relaxes and stays in a state of trust, then the gates of wisdom open. Because now you are not wasting your energy with high levels of cortisol that are putting you in stress. And you can now be in a state of zen, of stillness, of calmness, where that voice of God can speak through you. So having this conscious awareness of Allah's presence and having a good opinion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can put us in a place where we are in a state of this godliness, of this goodness, of this beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that has our back and gives us wisdom how to take the next step. Deepak Chopra also says that detachment doesn't mean that you say, whatever comes, I don't care, I don't know what it's going to be, but saying, whatever comes, I will receive it and then I will know how to take my next step. When that happens, I will know what to do next. That will be coming from a place of wisdom. That is detachment. Not saying, I don't care, I don't know what's going to happen. That's coming from a place of stress. When there is good opinion of God, then the detachment from dunya is of a completely different kind. Then you're in a state of peace, which enables you to have the wisdom to know what to do next. And knowing what to do next, and this wisdom keeps you on the right track, keeps you on Sirat Mustaqeem, keeps you on doing the right thing at the right time. And that becomes our constant moment to moment guidance, constant moment to moment presence in Sirat Mustaqeem. So I think I had one more thing. One more thing. The ayat that I also feel really inspired to share in today's session, I'm just almost over my time, is Surah Inshiqaq, Surah 84, ayat number 6. O mankind, indeed you are laboring towards your Lord with great exertion and will meet him. And the reason I feel so inspired to connect this ayat as well is because it's talking about meeting your Lord. Meeting your Lord is where we feel is our destination. So our right path is supposed to take me there, right? So in Sirat Mustaqeem, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is actually saying something really beautiful that is such a relief, because he's not talking to Muslims or Mu'mins or, he's saying, oh mankind, ya ayyuhan nas, not ya ayyuhal mu'minun, ya ayyuhal muslimun. He's not talking about them. He's saying, oh mankind, indeed you are laboring towards your Lord with great exertion and will meet him. So what he's actually saying is that every single person on this planet, in some way or the other, is doing their work towards meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they will meet him. So there is no doubt about meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will all meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he's giving us this promise and a surety that you are working towards it. So my point here is that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says that, whatever you do, wherever you want to run, try and escape me. You see, it's like saying, try and escape the good path. Try and escape reaching me. Even if you try to escape me, you really can't escape me. We're all hardwired to seek perfection. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is constantly guiding us and taking us to him. And the beautiful thing is that Allah is the only reality. Allah is the only existence. Hence, no matter who we believe we're talking to, in the end, the only hearing entity, the only one who is Sami is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in the end, we need to have this belief and faith of this husnus and billah, of this goodness in our hearts for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that no matter what happens, Allah has cradled us. Allah has taken this promise. Allah has made sure that none of us in the end fail. He is saying, "Oh mankind, oh my people," not only the ones who believe, but every single one of us are cradled in Allah's goodness. Allah is saying, all goodness is from me. So there is only goodness. And we keep going back and forth with our discussions on free will, on destiny, on accountability, on hell and heaven, on sins. And I think now I will end my session here. And next time when we will begin from the two groups of people Allah is talking about, and we will take this discussion forward. So I will end my session here with a dua. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Oh Allah, we come to you as your humble servants, confused and lost, distracted. We humble ourselves to your love, to your kindness, to your Rahmaniyah, and to your gentleness. And to the one who is the most intimate, and to the one who is closer to us than our jugular veins, and to the one who understands us better than we understand ourselves. O Allah, we come to you in all of our humility, in all of our flaws, in all of our brokenness, to seek your balming love, to seek your balming voice that pleases our hearts. O Allah, open our hearts and open our eyes to your love and to your Sha'an, to your beauty, to your tajalli, Ya Allah. We wait to be surprised by your beauty and your jamal and your manifestations that are unlimited and infinite, Ya Allah. Make us worthy of that witnessing, Ya Allah, and keep us in your closest, best, special friends, Ya Allah. We may not be worthy, Ya Allah, but we can dream high, and who is it that can bring our dreams to reality other than you? So, Ya Allah, purify our intentions, for we seek only you and only you, Ya Allah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.